was a warm summer night, and Tanner and I had nothing to do. Our usual trio, Tanner, Caiden, and myself, had been watching at least 4 horror movies every week for almost the entire summer. We had become connoisseurs of the supernatural. We watched ghost-hunting TV shows and documentaries about horrific events and places. We slept by the river and told stories of creatures lurking in the dark trees around us. We walked the city at night and searched for places that may have been occupied by unseen beings. Factories, abandoned houses, farms, and ancient schoolhouses. We had reached a point where we craved fear, and our rapid consumption of horror movies had built up our tolerance to the point where nothing we watched impressed us. So on this night, feeling we may never know fear again, Tanner and I got in my car and drove with no intentions whatsoever. "Want to go drive through Benjamin?" I asked. "We could go look at the Benjamin house or something." "I don't care," Tanner said in a disinterested tone. "Let's just cruise around." I turned up my stereo, the permanent home of a Kavinsky album I had burned onto a CD myself, and to the haunting vintage beats of the French electronic musician, we slipped through the night air. The headlights of my little car illuminated the advancing road, completely devoid of any cars or life. We slowed down as we passed the haunted, old Benjamin house. I had been in it before and decided it was just an old, broken house. Should we stop and check it out? Seconds after I said this, a police car drove slowly down the road. It was a popular spot for teenage mischief and practitioners of the occult, and the owners often asked for a patrol car to drive by and make sure no one was meddling. For obvious reasons, we decided not to visit the Benjamin house that night. We were silent as I navigated the dark streets of the farming community, turning at random, going down streets we've never been down before. I didn't have a single thought about where I was driving or what my destination was. I remember reaching what I thought was a dead end, my headlights illuminating the remnants of an ancient garage or shed, half hidden in trees, next to an unlit house in the same condition. "Dude, this is," I started. "Freaking creepy." Tanner finished. Normally we would have left the car and explored, but as soon as we saw those dilapidated structures, the peaceful feelings of the night were replaced with a twisting anxiety, an oppressive force, like 2 magnets with the same charge being pushed closer and closer together. I realized the dead end actually had a small road to the left. "Should we keep following this road?" I inquired slowly. "It will probably be faster," Tanner said. "I think the main road is somewhere over there," gesturing in the direction of the rotted shed. I nodded and turned onto the road. As we drove, I felt the uneasiness and the uncomfortable force on my throat start to increase. "Do you feel that in your throat?" I asked. "Yeah," Tanner replied. "And in your chest and stuff?" I exclaimed. "Yes, what the heck, man? What's going on?" "I don't know." We were grinning from ear to ear. We had finally found our fear fix. I slowed to a stop and rolled down the windows. To either side, there were apparently abandoned houses. Dark windows and unkempt yards adorned every one. I started to say, "This is the weirdest. Where are all the lights?" Tanner interrupted. I looked to the east, expecting to find the lights of Spanish Fork and Provo. Nothing. I looked up and down the street, searching for a street light. I saw none. The only light came from the car's headlights. This entire time we had been parked in the center of the road, engine idling. I slowly let off the clutch and eased into the gas. Our car crawled past the empty houses that were filled with things that did not want us there. The pressure on my throat had been steadily increasing. I could tell by the way Tanner was holding his own throat that he was experiencing the same effect. The air was dead. The only sound cutting through the night was my 1999 Hyundai Elantra's small engine. The only lights that we could see were the headlights. The city lights we had always been able to see from anywhere else in Benjamin were nowhere to be found. I turned off the lights, slowly passing the houses one by one. I turned to my passenger with a grin and choked out, "Where are we?" "Something is just off about these," said Tanner. "I know," I replied. "Why do they all look abandoned? I didn't even know this road was here, and why do I feel like something is pushing on my throat? It's getting harder to breathe." I stared into the empty windows, searching for any sign of life, of anything that could hate us this much. It felt like I was in the center of a room filled with people who hated me. Wherever we were not welcome there. The pressure on my throat was beginning to become extremely uncomfortable. "Is this just a placebo thing?" I asked, putting a hand on my throat. "Are we just doing this to ourselves?" "I don't think so," was his simple reply. We had passed the houses and were now surrounded by fields completely devoid of life. The forceful opposition had been escalating, reaching a point where I was no longer excited about finding this truly fearful place. I started to speed up. This place was wrong. Abstract thoughts ran rampant in my mind, all playing on one theme: you are not welcome here. I switched the lights back on and shifted into second gear, no longer able to stand our confident crawling speed. I shifted into third and saw a streetlight in the distance. I focused on the streetlight, and as we approached, I felt the pressure on my throat begin to lift. Now I raced towards the streetlight and saw that it illuminated a crossroad. The euphoric rush that comes after true fear hits me like a freight train. "What the? Did you feel? Where?" We reacted as only true horror junkies could. We were thrilled to finally have an experience that frightened us. I turned left at the streetlight. I could see the lights of the neighboring cities in the distance. Normal-looking houses lined the street, and the hateful force had disappeared completely. "I can't wait to tell Caiden about this," exclaimed Tanner. I was grinning as I replied, "We have to take him back there. That was literally the scariest thing I have ever experienced." "What do you think it was? Ghosts? Demons? Slenderman?" he asked. I laughed. "Whatever it was, I don't think it liked us very much." "We should go back," Tanner said thoughtfully, "see if we feel that again. I want to know if we were just scaring ourselves or if there actually was something." "Replicate the results," I said. "Good idea. We should have a ghost hunting show." I turned the car around and headed back in the direction we had come from. I didn't recognize any of the houses. "Did I make a wrong turn?" I said. "I don't remember any of these." "Me either. I know this is the right road, though. We never went another direction." We finally found the crossroads and turned back onto the street that didn't want us there. "Is this the?" Before I could finish, the choking feeling returned. Not as forceful as it was earlier, but definitely familiar. We smiled at the results of our experiment. "But wait, I don't recognize any of these houses," Tanner said. They were in the same style as those that littered the sides of the first street, and they felt just as wrong, but they were placed differently. Yards littered with different garbage, fields in a different order. Just as I said, neither do I. The street kicked us out onto a road that I knew would take us home. The milder feeling of oppression disappeared. I was baffled. "Let's just go home. We'll figure this out later," said Tanner. I concur. We returned a week or so later with Caiden, eager to show him the street. We drove around the tiny farming community of Benjamin for hours before finally giving up. It was gone, and although it had frightened me more than any other experience of my life up to that point, I missed it. It had satisfied that craving for the supernatural that nothing before or since has been able to match. Ever since I've been watching for wrong places, wrong people, wrong things that just don't belong. Fear isn't chainsaws and zombies. It isn't gore or twisted killers. It simply comes from things that are wrong.